Good evening. I'm Puing T Sui T Sudnai Log. You're watching Focus today. Here are tonight's top stories. To understand Thailand's turmoil, we need to understand China and the United States first. Because on the surface, it is a problem within Thailand, but it is actually a political game between the great powers. Many people have a very superficial understanding of Thailand's problems, saying that the United States did not support foreign and that a stable Thailand is in the interests of the United States. This cognition is quite ignorant. Please watch this video.
ความเข้าใจผิดนะคะที่บอกว่าม็อบเนี่ยมันมีอเมริกาหนุนหลังมันมีทักษิณไงหนุนหลังมันมีธนาธรไงธรเนี่ยหนุนหลังมันมีปิยบุตรมันมีช่อนี่ไงที่หนุนหลังไอ้ม็อบเนี้ยเลยต้องแบบสุดหายใจลึกๆแล้วก็ต้องบอกว่าม็อบเนี้ยมันไม่มีใครหนุนหลังค่ะบุคคลที่ดิฉันเอ่ยมานะคะทักษิณก็คืออยู่ต่างประเทศแล้วก็ไม่ได้รู้ว่าจะสามารถช่วยอะไรม็อบได้หรือเปล่าด้วยค่ะและธนาธรปิยบุตรช่อเนี่ยก็โดนตัดสิทธิ์ทางการเมืองพรรคจะโดนยุบแหล่ไม่ยุบแหล่ไปแล้วค่ะดังนั้นม็อบเนี้ยต่อให้อเมริกาก็ไม่ได้หนุนหลังค่ะเงินทุกบาททุกสตางค์มันคือมาจากด้อมมันคือมาจากทุกคนที่อยากเห็นประเทศชาติเจริญทุกคนที่โอนทุกคนที่เป็นท่อน้ำเลี้ยงคือเขาอยากเห็น2 สิ่งคือถนนแห่งความเจริญของบ้านเมืองและประชาธิปไตยอันแท้จริงนี่คือถนนที่เขาอยากเห็นค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นสิ่งเดียวที่จะหนุนหลังเราได้ก็คือมอนค่ะไม่มีใครที่จะหนุนหลังเราได้โอเคแม่บอกให้ล้างจานยังไม่ล้างเลยค่ะใครจะมาสั่งเราได้คะ
I'm pissed off. This bitch is either very dumb or she is lying to our faces like a psycho. I'm surprised she says nobody is funding or providing support to the protests. Let's take a look at why the Thailand issue is a game between China and the United States. When it comes to the game between China and the United States, we have to start with the Middle East. Earlier this year, Donald Trump sent a gift to the world. The assassination of Iran's General Soleimani. Iran has announced its withdrawal from the Iranian nuclear deal in revenge for the U.S. assassination of Soleimani. Iran withdrew from the Iran nuclear agreement and decided to embark on the road of possessing nuclear weapons. The Iranian nuclear issue is not simply a bilateral security issue between the United States and Iran. It's a major global problem. The trend of the Iranian nuclear issue can promote and dominate the global pattern in 3 aspects: the energy system, the security system, and the financial system. Why does the Iranian nuclear issue have to be 6-party talks? Because this issue is so important that many countries' interests are involved. These countries think that it is not Iran's own problem, but it's their problem too. Now it has become a political game among big powers. Let's see who they are. Number 1, the United States. The USA's demand is to establish a puppet regime in Iran. Iran's oil must be given to the United States like Saudi Arabia, it must be the assets of the US oil consortium. In a nutshell, Iran's oil must be controlled by the United States. The US wants all the nations in the world to kneel before him as his slaves. Whoever it lets live can live, and whoever it lets die must die. Whoever it gives oil to can have oil. Number 2, Iran. Iran's demand is that Iran's oil should be in the possession of Iran. And Iran is determined that they will not give up their oil and they will not be slaves like Saudi Arabia. Moreover, Iran needs to sell their oil, so the whole country gets rich from selling oil, like other countries in the Middle East. Iran wants to remain independent and make money. They do not want to be taken advantage of by the United States. If you want to avoid being taken advantage of by others, you have to have weapons. It is impossible for a small country to confront a big country with conventional military strength. However, if small countries have nuclear weapons, they can obtain asymmetric confrontation capability, which can offset the conventional military advantage of the United States. In order to make money and not be controlled by the US, Iran must have nuclear weapons. Therefore, Iran's possession of nuclear weapons is completely forced by the United States. Who is Iran going to sell oil to? Russia is a net exporter of oil, and the United States is also a net exporter of oil. Apparently, the biggest buyers of Iran's oil are Asia and Europe. How do they sell their oil? Trade settlement is a problem. Number 3 and number 4, Germany and France. What are the demands of Germany and France? They have 2 core demands, one is energy security. The other is the financial interest in using the euro for trade settlement of oil with Iran, bypassing the US dollar. Saddam tried to do this before and was hanged by the United States. But Europe still has illusions that the euro could expand through the trade settlement of oil with Iran. The EU has no army of its own, yet they want to make money easily while singing and eating. Mugug tug. So the US always teach them a lesson. Number 5. Russia. Russia's demands have irreconcilable conflict with the United States in terms of energy and security. If the US controls Iran the way it controls Saudi Arabia, then the entire Middle East's oil is under America's control. In addition, trade routes are controlled by the United States, and trade settlements are controlled by the United States too. Once the United States can dump Middle East oil at very low prices, Russia will not be able to sell their oil. Everybody knows Russia sells oil for a living. This will destroy Russia's economy. Once Russia's economy cannot grow, it will lead to domestic problems, which will lead to unrest. The United States would have the opportunity to dismember Russia by making some regions independent. Furthermore, after taking Iran, the oil in Central Asia will immediately be in America's possession. After the United States owns oil in Central Asia and Iran, they could build a pipeline that bypasses Russia, and the US could send oil to Europe through countries such as Ukraine. This means an absolute oil monopoly, and in the future both Europe and Russia will become slaves to the United States in terms of energy. Moreover, if the United States controls Iran and builds a fleet in the Caspian Sea, then America's military deployment will border on Russia's territory. Two big countries have no strategic buffer zone at all. This is a worse nightmare for Russia than eastward expansion of NATO. Therefore, Russia will not compromise with the United States on the issue of Iran. Number 6. China. China's demand is energy security, geopolitical security and economic security. If the Great Middle East Strategy succeeds. The Great Middle East Strategy refers to America's plan to control Iran and the oil in the Middle East and to control the oil pipelines in the Middle East. Then China will be a slave to energy. Once China becomes a slave to energy, China can't get rid of the US dollar in the economy. If China cannot break through the blockade of the United States, it will not be able to guarantee national security and independence. Because America can stop giving China oil anytime. America can paralyze China's industry and economy by cutting off supply of oil. On the issue of Iran, China does not allow the United States to control Iran either. The US wants absolute control over energy and to turn the rest of the world into his slaves. But China, Russia and Iran don't want to be slaves. Thus, on the issue of Iran, a temporary balance of power has been formed, which means the United States cannot wipe out China and Russia cannot defeat the United States. This is the background of the lengthy six-party talks on the Iran nuclear deal. Through the above analysis, it is not difficult to see that China, Russia and Iran are natural allies of interests, and it is inevitable for them to gang up on America. Iran is satisfied that they can sell oil while their country remains independent. China and Russia can also accept it because at least Iran is not controlled by the US like Saudi Arabia, so their energy security and geopolitical security are guaranteed. But America is not so happy. However, the United States, France and Germany seem to be allies, but in fact everyone has a different plan. On the issue of Iran, they are not true allies, but competitors who make use of each other. It is just that they have not yet risen to the relationship of hostile competition. If the United States wins by a landslide, the expansion of the euro is out of the question. If Russia and China win by a landslide, the expansion of the euro will not happen either. This leads to a strange scene. Europe is unhappy no matter who is dominant. How can you make Europe happy? Europe and Iran bypass the United States and do business secretly. This will make Europe happy.